Awareness of fairness. Your first cognitive thought. Now, when you look at the thumbnail, you'll realize, or maybe not, that I was originally going to make a financial video about my feelings about high yielding weekly paying ETFs. However, when I was making the thumbnail, and basically the premise is picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, which is a very risky endeavor. So I put a person with a business suit on, coins on the ground, and a steamroller bearing on top. And I thought, isn't this person aware of the danger? And also I started to think, it seems a little bit unfair, the distribution of wealth around the world. Now, awareness of fairness, your first cognitive thought. For me, I can't remember when I became aware of fairness. However, I'm in my 60s, I'm a father and a grandfather, and I've seen it in my children and my grandchildren. And where you see it the most is when you bring treats, right? You go to the store on the way home, you grab a few treats, just a handful, you don't really count, but you learn to count them out. Go home, distribute the treats, and immediately my children or grandchildren will subconsciously count or consciously count how many treats each one of them got. And if one got one more than the other, it was devastation. Just insane, their reaction. And then, so I started thinking, when do we become cognitively aware of fairness? And that happens at an extremely early age. I would say between 1 and 2, for some people a little bit before, some people a little bit after. But in that range, you start to develop your sense of fairness. And from that fairness, which is the foundation for justice, you build your life. So it almost is an instinctive thing, right? When you're a newborn, you just want to be fed and changed, held. And that pretty much becomes your lifelong journey to balance fair, unfair, just, unjust. In my life, thinking about this, because when I was started off doing this video, you can see by the thumbnail, I very much felt that the information that I've been presented was completely unfair, completely unjust. From the documentation to the presenters to the hypers on YouTube, I felt it was unfair. In fact, I felt so upset about it that I started a YouTube channel discussing my feelings about how unfair the distribution of wealth is and how many tricks and potential scams can be run upon a human being. But reflecting on this, I looked through my life and realized that the unfair and fair awareness that I had evolved. And it has evolved through my life. And there are 8 billion people on this earth with 10 billion opinions of what's fair and what's unfair, what's just and what's unjust. Well, some people have multiple personalities. So the 8 billion There's 10 billion opinions. Now, when you look at your life, you can't remember first moment you felt unfair. Because I don't think fair comes first. I think unfair or unjust comes first, where you feel slighted. And then that starts to make you aware of what's fair, what's just. Thinking about it, it has happened every day of my life, and probably every day of your life, where you have felt slighted, where you felt that something has been unfair or unjust, but you really don't remember the fair outcomes. And that's just the human condition. We want more. That's why I started this thumbnail as a financial thumbnail, because in my retirement, not that I need more, but I want more. And these high yielding weekly ETFs promise Shangri-La, El Dorado, the city of gold, waiting at your feet, which is never really the case. If things sound too good to be true, they're too good to be true. I didn't make that up, but I should have. Maybe in a previous life. Fairness matters. It rounds out your life. And as you age, you look at the ethics of awareness, the mindset, the human behavior, right? It starts to develop your moral compass. Justice and fairness are not just words, they're instincts that all humans have. We know as we mature what we feel is fair. We know what it is when we believe something is unfair. And we react accordingly, although I do believe we react much more harshly to unfair behavior or unfair situations than we do to fair, right? It's almost like that IKEA commercial where, start the car, because the person thought they got a more advantageous or a more fair purchase. That's how we go through life. For me, my dreams of grandeur with these high yielding ETFs, weekly players, by the way, the power of compounding, the eighth wonder of the world, I believed I was going to have not a more secure retirement, but a much more beneficial one, where I could distribute the extra wealth to my family. The harsh reality is that, and I don't know if you heard this term, life is unfair. You can see that in the tremendous wealth gap that there is. Imagine if all of a sudden the whole world got together and said, you are going to make the decisions on how we're going to live. You're going to redistribute wealth, make everybody happier. How would you do it? Because you're biased in your opinion. You don't have a veil that you can cover yourself in and exclude all your emotions. Seclude yourself in the betterment of humanity. No matter what you decide, you're going to be unfair to someone. No matter what you decide, you're going to be unjust to someone. It is impossible to make everyone happy. My position on awareness of fairness is that I'm completely indifferent to the rest of humanity. And that's sad. I thought I was a better person. But as I get more deeply into this, my thought process become more clear on what unfair, fair, just, unjust. It's all personal to every person on this planet. I don't know if given the power, I could bring happiness to everyone in the world, but I would try in my own biased way because I can't filter through a veil of impartial thought processes. All I wanted with this thumbnail is to say how unfair it is to hold hope out to people in need and pull the rug out from under them, or to steamroll over top of them just to get at what little assets they have. It's a hard life. There's so much I wanted to say, and it slips my mind because this is too deep of a topic for me. I'm not smart enough. I'm not wise enough. I'm not aware enough to what fair is, because fair means something different to you than it does to me. But I do believe it's our first cognitive thought, our first awareness of being social beings and our needs and our wants and our desires. I'm going to keep looking into this. I'm fixated on it right now, and possibly come back to having clear understanding. But with something like this, I may never be able to come up with a reasonable solution. I don't really believe there is a solution, because what's right for me may not be right for you. So, rounding it off, weekly high-yielding ETF payers, for me, and I'm not a financial planner, go seek professional help, is a road to ruin. And that is unfair. All I want is fair. So if you like what you heard, or are more confused than you were when we first started, give a like, share, and subscribe.